So again, welcome to the Moonshot Innovation Space info session. Excited to have y'all here to learn about just some of the changes that we've had here at Moonshot and changes to our fellowship program to talk about really just some exciting ways that we're ready to engage with our next cohort of fellows and to really dig into some of y'all's questions that y'all submitted. We're going to start with just some intros. We have some staff here as well as some previous fellows, some of our alumni. So we'll start there. Then we're going to jump in and just really dig into what Moonshot does and again, talk about our innovation space fellowship program. So after that, we'll have a panel. Again, they're going to be answering some of the questions that were pre-submitted. And there'll be some opportunities at the end as well in the open question section if there's anything that you wanted to kind of reach out to them about. And then we'll have an FAQ section as well as go a little bit further on to some of y'all's pre-submitted questions. And then that will be really take us to time after the open question section. So currently on our team, there's five staff members. We're currently hiring for 2 additional. So we have a development manager, which is a new position for us that we're filling, as well as our program and operations manager, which was previously filled for the past almost 5 years by one of our former colleagues. And so, yeah, excited to bring somebody in to continue her work. My name is Justin Tonight. I'm the program director. So I facilitate the fellowship. I use he, him pronouns, and something that's bringing me joy. I mean, I'm seeing the sun finally starting to set, but now that we're here in spring and that sun is shining and the birds are out there just chirping, it's bringing my heart a lot of joy. I'll go ahead and pass it to Darren.
Hey, y'all, thanks for joining us. My name is Darren Tang. Pronouns are she, her, and hers. Managing Director of Strategy and Impact. I had a role shift, was focused on programs and now have moved into a role where a lot of my work lately has been the curriculum redesigns, the overhaul of the fellowship, not only the curriculum, but also some of the other moving parts and like everything just in terms of like the experience, the fellow experience. And just really excited to share a lot of those updates with you all today. And then also focus on just data and strategy and impact within Moonshot. Something that is bringing me joy today, also the sunshine. After just a lot of snow, I really appreciate like being able to walk outside without heavy boots and jackets and stuff on. So yeah, excited to see you all today, and I will pass it over to Amanda.
Darren didn't tell y'all that she just came back from Jamaica too. So, being able to continue with some of that sunshine is helpful.
So she ain't been in boots for a little while. Hi, everybody. I'm Amanda Gonzalez. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the managing director of schools and programs. And so I will get to work with all of our fellows for cohort 7. I am also a cohort 2 member. So that took place back in 2018. And I'm just super excited to kind of navigate in both of those spaces as both an alumni, but also working with Moonshot. We also have 2 more alumni on the call with us, Donna and Jess. I'll let you all introduce yourselves. I'll pass it to Donna first.
Thank you. Hi, Matakiapi, Donna Christiani, Machiapi Show. Hi, everyone. My name is Donna Christian, and I am C5. I am cohort 5 in the house. And what is bringing me joy? I have had a ton of coffee today, and I'm about to get another one. So coffee is bringing me joy. So it's good to see everyone. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jess Valsecki. I use she, her pronouns, and I was also part of cohort 2 with Amanda, some FASU love. And what's bringing me joy is I actually just got back from a women's retreat this past weekend, and I describe it as like an adult like summer camp / sleepover. And it was just really fun to connect with people and be in nature and take some time to unplug.
Beautiful. Again, we're really excited to have Amanda, not just as a fellow, but on our staff, but to have Amanda, Donna, and Jess here to share just some of their insights and experiences from the fellowship. And again, be reminded that we've just gone through an entire year of a redesign for our fellowship. So their experience may not be exactly what y'all's experience will be, but there's a lot of relevant content, a lot of relevant experience that still carries over. So yeah, again, if there's questions that you have at the end after they've had a chance to share and we've gone through some of the pre-submitted questions, feel free to ask them something that's sitting at the top of your head. Cool. So again, Moonshot has gone through some great changes over the past year. That's both our fellowship, but it's also even to as granular as our mission. So Moonshot grows a community of BIPOC and historically marginalized leaders with the skills and resources to design collaborative solutions that disrupt systemic inequities impacting youth. So a little bit about Moonshot, our vision. Is that equity-driven leaders embedded in the community are cultivating systems and environments for youth on the margins to thrive. And how do we do this? It's through our 9-month program called the Moonshot Innovation Space. This is formerly known as the Moonshot Fellowship. And through our programming since 2017, we've had 100 Moonshot Fellows. Those fellows have impacted over 15,000 youth. And something that we're really proud of and intentional about is that 85% of our fellows identify as folks of color, 65% of those identifying as women and non-binary folks. And so again, that's through very intentional recruitment and through very intentional branding. And here's a little note around just this redesign and shift from our CEO, Kat Ling. The Denver ecosystem needs more than just new schools and programs. We learned over time that there's also interest in catalyzing change in existing systems and ensuring policies work to support equitable outcomes for youth and communities. We've evolved our programs to more formally and comprehensively support multiple pathways with a renewed focus on not only launching, but also sustaining both our leaders and the solutions they've designed. So what is this Moonshot Innovation Space? And again, it's shifted dramatically from anyone who may have previously been familiar with our work, with the fellowship who may have applied in the past or thought about applying. The Moonshot Innovation Space is a 9-month program. It's part-time with a weekly commitment throughout that 9 months. We have workshops on leadership and organization. Each cohort consists of 15 to 20 fellows. And we're really working with leaders that are in new and existing solutions, that are looking to create new or work within existing solutions. And previously, we had really focused with educators that were looking to create schools and nonprofits. And now we're taking a more cross-sector approach. And looking at supporting youth more holistically. And so leaders can be working in education still, but it could also be the arts or healthcare, housing, food, sustainability, policy, really. And that's just, again, a few examples, but anything that is positively impacting youth are the folks that we want to bring into this fellowship. And so who are we looking for? We have 4 profiles. There's launchers, organizers, catalyzers, and inventors. So this is another shift. Previously, we had 2 pathways. Again, it was school launchers and it was program launchers. And so we're really excited about some of the shift and how it's going to really support the solution development, how it's going to support collaboration, and how it's going to push people to really think intentionally about how they partner with community to create a solution, but also in being able to shift and feeling empowered to shift if their ideas and their solutions are adjusted over time based off of their learnings. So the first one, again, is launchers. This is the one that historically is representative of Moonshot. And so they're individuals seeking to design innovative solutions by building and launching new and bold organizations, which are typically schools or nonprofits, but it's not solely those two. And These organizations are meeting a demonstrated need sourced by a historically marginalized community. And a great example of that is actually Tetenda, who is on the call, another Moonshot Fellow from 2020. And Tetenda launched Montessori on Wheels. And I think Tetenda's story is kind of the epitome of like why we've kind of shifted to this new fellow profile, because Tetenda came in initially looking to create a school and shifted to a program based off of just his learnings throughout the program. And so we really want to focus on just that flexibility and people being malleable enough to adjust to what they know to be true based off of, again, those community relationships, based off of the ways in which they begin to partner with peers in the fellowship. The next fellow profile is organizer. And so organizers are individuals seeking to design and implement solutions through community organizing and advocacy efforts that meet a demonstrated need sourced by a historically marginalized community. Some examples are engaging with youth and families and meeting with representatives and attending city council meetings to co-design policy that could be addressing youth homelessness, or it could be developing a youth civic engagement campaign. So again, those are just some examples, but we're really looking for folks that are embedded in community and organizing and advocacy. Our third profile is catalyzer. And so catalyzers are individuals seeking to design and implement solutions within an existing organization that meet a demonstrated need sourced by a historically marginalized community. And catalyzers, there was a big part of our fellowship where folks came in with the idea to launch and realized that they may be best suited in their current organization. And so how do we set people up for success to be able to actually make impactful change within their current setting? That kind of helped us get to this place. And so some examples of a catalyzer are an assistant principal who wants to design and implement an initiative to retain BIPOC and historically marginalized teachers, or it could be a math teacher who wants to design and implement a program within their school to support the integration and sense of belonging of migrant and recent arrival students. And then our last fellow profile is inventor. And so inventors are individuals seeking to design and implement resources that impact youth that meet a demonstrated need, again, sourced by a historically marginalized community. And so this could look like a lot of things, including designing a financial literacy curriculum, developing a transportation app. Again, we really want to cultivate a group of folks that are willing to think critically and think outside the box in how they work with community to create solutions to the problems that communities are experiencing and identifying. So I'm going to pass it over to Darnie, who will kind of give a brief overview of our Moonshot Leadership Competency Framework.
Thanks, Justin. So the Moonshot Leadership Competency Framework is really what we focus on as we think about like what does leadership development look like. We, in addition to supporting with designing your community solution that you're here for. And so this is really grounded in a lot of, it's steeped in culturally responsive research that really focuses on identity at the center. Like what does integrated identity look like? What what do intersectional identities look like? How do we consider those as we're designing our solutions, as we are, stepping into various leadership positions? Like, what does that look like? How does that influence your values and how you show up as a leader? And really grounding also in cultural wealth frameworks and funds of knowledge frameworks, which really like value, it really challenges dominant norms in terms of valuing like where do you come from? What are the different like ways of knowing and ways of being that come with the various identity markers that you carry? And then some of the other areas that we focus on is liberatory leadership mindset. So this is really like, what does it mean for me to be able to operate like through ambiguity and uncertainty as I'm doing something new, or I'm designing a new solution, or maybe I'm launching my own organization or doing something that hasn't been done before. people leadership. Like this may not apply to every profile. Justin just went over the 4 profiles. Maybe you're not looking to like lead your own team, but what does it look like to show up to like build an inclusive culture in the spaces that you operate in? And also leadership and learning for continuous improvement. That's essentially like, how am I like grounding what I do in evidence from the community, from lived experience, as well as from other data points that I'm using out there. And then lastly, strategic and operational leadership, which is really some of the fundamentals, everything from strategic planning to some of the more supports, depending on what the solution is that you're designing. It could be HR, legal, finance, it could be fundraising. So those are some of the different aspects of the work.
And are these used in the actual selection process?
These are not. That's a great. Thanks for reminding me of that, Justin. This is more. This is what you'll the framework that we use to ground our curriculum in, and also just the coaching that we do throughout the fellowship as well. And then just very high level curricular objectives. One of the things that we hear consistently from our alumni is like the community. That's a huge piece. It's the network of support, everything from your cohort to the extended support that you receive as an alum as well. Community engagement is really, we're really, I think previously one of the things that we did was like, we started just with the fellows' idea and what they wanted to do. And we're really pushing ourselves we're sourcing community need. Is this a problem that the community wants to solve? How do we know? How do we define, like, what does community even mean? How do we define that? How do we center community in the decisions that we're making? I mentioned leadership development, which is what the framework I just went over really focuses on. Solution design and piloting. So that's, testing out, like taking your idea and bringing it to life and testing it out in this constant learning process of refining, like based off of the inputs that, and the feedback that you receive from the community. Like, how do we continue to refine our design and do this in a really responsible way before just launching something full scale with no proof points, or that this is what the community wants, or that I have the capacity to do this, or that I know that this is something that's going to work. And then sustainability and planning for the future. I know that we'll talk about alumni, like what does it look like to be an alum, and that's some of the work that Amanda and Justin are leading.
So by the end of the program, fellows should have a clearly identified pathway to influence systems impacting youth. Fellows are persisting in youth-serving fields. They have the tools, resources, and networks to sustain themselves at an individual level, and they should be equipped with the knowledge and skills to report meaningful change in youth outcomes. And we define meaningful as influencing important long-term academic, but also more importantly, life outcomes. And so those are just some of the, again, programmatic outcomes by the end of the 9-month fellowship. With that said, there are multiple programs, so I'm going to transition this over to Jess to talk about the different programming that we have.
Great. So the one that you're here on this webinar for is the Moonshot Innovation Space Fellowship. So that's the 9-month fellowship. And then after the fellowship, there are other options within Moonshot. So there's a program launcher residency and also a school launcher residency. And then there's a plethora of alumni services that you have access to after the fellowship as well, which will go a little bit more in depth on this slide. So first, you develop just like a really tight-knit community. People have said there's over 100 alumni now, which is kind of like wild to think about. When I started in cohort 2, there was maybe like 15 or 16 people in cohort 1, and then it just continues to build. So you can leverage the cohorts to also help move your ideas forward. And then the Moonshot Collaboration Council, this used to be called the Expert Bench, but every alum gets 7 hours a year of free collaboration with different consultants. So if you need a consultant on like nonprofit legal consulting or professional coaching or marketing, I've personally used, there was a lawyer on the council and an accountant, and I needed help with those sort of things. So I schedule time with them, and it's really valuable to have that as part of the alumni services. There's also what's called a Direct to Fellows Learning Fund. So you can apply for different grant amounts. They're like mini grants or micro grants to help support you either with your ideas or even just like personally and professionally if you wanted to attend a conference that's going to help you grow. Those are some of the ways that you could use those funds. And it also gives you practice of like applying to grants, right? So I've used it several times and I've had to go through like, okay, I'm going to submit my budget and my project plan. And so it kind of helps you build and practice those skills for applying to larger grants. Another piece is the financial support fund. And so this is similar to the Direct to Fellows Learning Fund, but it's really just a small personal grant. If you're in like really immediate financial needs, you can apply for that as well. And then Moonshot Wellness, I have not taken advantage of this yet, but it is 8 annual sessions with a BIPOC therapist paid for by Moonshot. So we believe in like the whole person, and wellness is a big part of showing up as your best self as a leader. So we offer that as well. And then lastly, we've been able to partner with some community organizations and get free tickets to like sporting events or the Denver Art Museum. And so anytime we get those sort of things, we send out a blast to all the alum and they can take advantage of tickets for them, their organizations and things that they're working for as well.
Well, thanks, Jess. Yeah, and the alumni services are really just a great added benefit for supporting your personal and professional sustainability post fellowship. So definitely take advantage of all of the different offerings that you have, and we're constantly assessing just the efficacy of the different resources that we have and seeing if there are new opportunities that we can bring about to support our network of alumni. So we, again, have a fellow panel. So we looked at just some common questions as well as some of the pre-submitted questions. And so I'm going to be asking Amanda, Donna, and Jess just some questions. And again, if you're still have some questions specifically for them at the end, there'll be some opportunities for you to ask that. So the first question that I have is for Donna. Donna, can you maybe share why did you choose to apply and join the Moonshot Fellowship?
Hi, yes, I can answer that. I thought about this for a long time, but I've been sharing about my experience as an Indigenous person and this perspective in educational spaces for over 40 years of my life. And I know that might sound crazy, but my mom and I started doing educational lectures to schools and organizations when I was 5 years old. So I just felt I needed a space to grow and to really challenge who I am. So I took a chance on myself. That's how I framed applying for a Moonshot. Was this is an opportunity that I'd never done for myself, was to put myself with a group of other educators. Since I'm not a traditional educator in the sense that I went to school for it and I'm certified and I teach in front of a classroom, that is not who I am as an educator. So that's how I decided to apply, was to take a chance on myself and my own development as an educator, and give myself an opportunity to grow in an area I'd never done for myself. So that was my reasoning behind it. I don't always know what I sign up for, so that's kind of fun. But yeah, that's my reason.
Well, thank you, Donna. Don't always know what you sign up for. Hopefully, yeah, it's impactful posts though. Cool. Jess, I'm gonna send this one to you. Can you talk about what the most impactful part of the fellowship was for you? And what will folks get out of this experience from your perspective?
Yes. So yeah, I had to think about this for a while too. So I'm like, most impactful, but a few things come to mind. One, I think the process of the fellowship really like pushed me out of my comfort zone, which you all have to be pushed out of your comfort zone. You have to be uncomfortable or be comfortable with the uncomfortable to grow, right? And I think a lot of pieces like the way that you have to kind of just put your ideas out there and just like go with it and make sure like it's not going to be perfect. And I'm a person that's like, I want to have all the pieces like nailed down before I can actually put an idea out there. And this fellowship pushed me to just like throw it out there and like you're going to iterate and it's going to probably look completely different from when you walked in. And that's the point. And like you're going to have to learn to be okay with that. So that honestly has translated into like my life now. Like I'm able to do that a lot more. I'm about to go through like another career kind of transition. And I'm like, I don't really know all the how, but I'm just gonna start and like we'll go from there. And it will probably be different from where I started. So I think personally that was a really good push. And then professionally, I just started realizing throughout the fellowship that the current job that I had was just not aligned to my values and was like a very toxic environment for me. And y'all, I ended up quitting my job in the middle of the fellowship. And I just had so much like love and encouragement from my cohort. Like there was someone in my cohort that quit her job maybe like a month or so before that. And then the current or the founder was also like, just do it. I got you. Like, and I had no plan. I didn't know what I was going to do, but luckily Moonshot needed some consulting work. So I did some work for them on the side until I figured it out. And that has put me on a completely different trajectory. Not saying that you're going to want to quit your jobs once you join the fellowship, or that's the outcome that we hope for you. But it just gave me that clarity I needed to just, and that courage to take a different path. And I'm so happy that I did.
Thanks so much, Jess. So the next question I'm going to throw to Amanda. What was the hardest part about the fellowship for you? If there was anything hard, because things just come to you.
No, so the hardest part of the fellowship, so I think it's all contextual, right? So like back in 2018, I was a middle school assistant principal at the time. When I was doing this fellowship, I had 6 kids at home, ages 11 to 17, and a whole husband, right? Like, and so I was tired. And it was initially when I first kind of applied, I was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't need more things on my plate. But by the time we got to group interview day, I remember like the motivation and just being with like-minded people. And that drove me, I think, throughout the entire time. And so I think tangibly there was some pre-work before sessions. I don't think I would call it hard because it was always super engaging, right? It was like, read this article before we get to the session. And it was more, how do I carve out time to make sure that I'm reading with intention? But because it was so engaging and it was different than the work within schools that I was doing, that part wasn't hard. I think like Jess, like the fellowship challenged my thoughts and my against all of my experiences as an educator. And so what is hard is when our thoughts are being challenged or when we're pushed to think of things differently. The fellowship pushed me to think about like, how do I show up? What risks do I take? Like Jess, like, y'all, I started a whole school like after this fellowship, right? Like I have never, ever even thought that was possible had I not done the fellowship. And so I also appreciate though that people have different experiences in terms of the fellowship, and feedback has been taken. Justin mentioned like this whole redesign has happened way since Jess and I were back in cohort 2. But the feedback received about like pre-work and time commitment has actually shifted the intensity and the pacing of the fellowship into what it is now. And I appreciate that like the fellowship redesign squad, who were made up of alumni, Donna was one of them, really were intentional about just slowing down and going deeper instead of wider.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we had a fellowship redesign squad consisting of alumni that really were intentional about making sure that this was a sustainable fellowship for folks helped make the push for us to transition to a 9-month just continuous fellowship, because before it was broken into three-month chunks that you could opt into along the way. And again, really pushed our thinking and stretched what we thought was possible around moving away from just focusing on schools and nonprofit launching. And so really grateful for Don and the others that were a part of that group. I have another set of questions for y'all. So I'm going to throw it back to Donna. Donna, what advice would you give someone who is considering joining the fellowship?
Do it. Just jump both feet in, both arms in, heart and head in, and be open to the process. No matter your why for submitting your application, whatever that reason is, it's valid for why you decided to apply, but don't limit yourself to that, to your initial why. Be open to the growth in the process, and be willing to learn and challenge yourself, and give yourself to the process. And I'm Lakota, and I introduced myself in Lakota language when we started. One of the most important values for Lakota people is to make relatives in this lifetime. So that is part of the process, and that's how I viewed it too. It took me a minute to get there. But the challenge came in session 3 for me, and it was so eye-opening. Moonshot made me do something I would have never done for myself, which is to make me an expert. And in our Lakota way, I would never do that. I'm not an expert until I'm an elder, and I'm too young for that, even though my knees say I'm old enough. But I just would have never put myself in an expert category. And we did an entire session on that, and it really challenged me, and it pushed me, and it opened a door for myself to grow and to really give myself to the people I was sharing about my expertise. And I just felt like I gained family in that session, because it was an emotional session for myself. And just being open to that process, it totally changed my perspective on who I am and the way I view my work, not just in educational spaces, but in others. So I truly grew that day, and I'm so thankful for the process that Moonshot pushed me and challenged me.
Well, all in, not just why folks should go here, but what was your challenge? How were you pushed? What was growth? I love it. Jess, we're gonna ask you another question. What has your post-fellowship or alumni experience been like?
Sure. Well, I alluded to this a little bit, but I have taken advantage of most of the alumni services that I shared earlier. Direct to Fellows Learning Fund has really helped me sustain the program that I started through Moonshot. I'm able to pilot and test different things. I was able to do professional development for myself. And then in my consulting business too, I use a lot of the counsel and consultants to learn from. I would also say my family, Moonshot is my family, and that's staff members and also my cohort members. We still stay in touch. 2018 is when we joined the fellowship, and we do monthly dinners or brunches wherever we can fit them in. And we support each other still. We share resources, we vent and cry, and whatever we need, we're there for each other. There's one person that launched her school 2 years ago. We were there the first couple weeks of school supporting her. We have 2 about to launch schools this next fall. So we're there, they're cheerleaders. We're making sure they have what they need. And so that has been the best alumni experience, is just having those connections and community. And I know a lot of us are looking for that community. And this is a great place to find your people in your community.
Well said. Well said. I've been here since May of last year, and I didn't go through the fellowship, but like the finding your family, finding your people, like making new homies, like yeah, that's real. All right, I have one last question for you, Amanda. I think your leadership journey has been a ride, but I'd love to hear how the fellowship specifically impacted your leadership.
Moonshot changed my life, y'all. And like one small example of that is we had a workshop where we kind of sat in like by ourselves and identified our personal values based on our lived experiences. And through that, I really recognized that authenticity is like my number one personal value. And right after our fellowship had come to a close, I ended up accepting a position as the principal of a high school. And the entire first semester, like y'all, I sucked. It was a whole hot mess. And I realized that I was trying to lead through this idea of like how I was supposed to be as a school principal. And like I had this image of my head of like the school principal that wears a skirt every day with high heels and clicks around. And it was just ridiculous. And it was actually one of the Moonshot alumni in my cohort that was like, are you even leading through your personal values? And it was that moment that I like the light bulb came on, right? And after that, I was like, you know what, forget this. Like, I hate wearing dresses. I hate wearing heels. Let me actually lead through who I authentically am. And my entire experience as a leader just completely shifted. I see that high heel Donna. And so I think one, just that constant reminder, and it went from not just being in my head, but also now in my heart to like lead through my values. Jess mentioned like the network of deep friendships who I think as a leader, not only are these people like my friends and we're joking around and hanging out and going to our monthly brunches and all that kind of stuff, but these folks can also just like call me out on my shit, right? Hold me accountable. Give me just, I think Moonshot overall has given me the permission to operate authentically and to have people to bounce those ideas off of. It's literally changed my life.
And now she's a colleague and works here. Cool. Thank y'all so much. Yeah, wonderful insights and reflections. Not to put anyone on the spot, Tatenda, not sure if you're there. I'm wondering if there's anything that you would add or a picture you would paint about your experience in a few words.
Yeah, I think Amanda stole my words. Literally it changed my life, my trajectory. I can never stand and not, talk about Moonshot. I think for me, the idea of being in a space where BIPOC leaders are given permission to lead and be able to pivot, knowing that change also is very impactful in ways in which we respond to community was, I think, for me, all I needed to be able to like tap into listening to the community and then be able to be more responsive. And they were just like present and giving you the permission to do that. So they don't like hold you to like certain product that you have to produce, but they're also wanting to bear witness to what this process sort of does to each fellow. So that to me almost was my Jesus moment for my career. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Tatenda had no idea. I didn't even know Tatenda was going to be on here for sure. Was not prompted that he was going to speak. So thank you for offering a little bit of insights. Cool. So again, if there's any questions that you have for any of our panelists, there'll be some time at the end for you to ask those questions. We want to jump into our FAQs. There are several questions that we saw kind of come in repeatedly, as well as just questions that we've seen over the years. And then we also have a section where we've specifically addressed questions from the RSVP. Now, if you submitted something in the last, I don't know, 18 hours is likely not going to be on here, but again, there'll be opportunity at the end to ask your questions. So the application timeline, that's something that we know a lot of y'all want to know about. So round one, the written application is due by April 14th. So it opened, what's today, on the 11th? Oh my goodness, it's already been a week and a half almost. So it opened on the 11th, and there is still just under a month left. Folks will be notified by April 19th if they've made it to the second round, which is a recorded individual video interview. So you're gonna respond to some questions, not in person, but again, pre-recorded. And so those are due by April 29th. So there's a 10-day window there. From there, folks will be notified by May 10th if they've moved on to our third and final round, which is our group interview days. And so there's a one-day group interview that you will participate in. You can choose one of the two in-person days, which are May 28th or June 7th, or the virtual date, which is May 31st. All of the in-person will be at our Moonshot offices in Denver. And then finally, folks will be notified on their selection by June 24th. So some program logistics. So the time commitment, the fellowship for the 2024-25 Moonshot Innovation Space begins on Thursday, August 29th, and it ends Thursday, May 15th, 2025, which is a showcase event to really showcase the work and solutions that have been crafted throughout the 9-month fellowship. Now, we convene weekly on Thursday evenings, September through May from 6 to 8 p.m. So again, that's that weekly commitment. And then weekends, there's one weekend day a month, September through May again, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So that is the general time commitment. With that being said, there's only one programming day in December, which is a social gathering, and that will be held at some point during the first 2 weeks of December, and we'll kind of get a better sense of the cohort calendars to be able to schedule that to make sure that everybody can attend. Now, there are 2 retreats and 1 visit. And so our national retreat is at the very beginning of the fellowship. And so that is August 30th through September 1st, which is a Friday through Sunday, but that is Labor Day weekend. So just something to be aware of if you generally have plans of leaving out of town or doing a little staycation, whatever it might be. And then our second retreat is a local retreat. And by local, we just mean within Colorado, not necessarily in Denver. And that is January 17th through 19th of 2025. And again, that is a Friday through Sunday, and it is MLK Junior Day weekend. And so again, another long weekend if you were planning on traveling or skip out of town, that would be an expectation for folks to be at that retreat. And then we have a school program and or community visit, and that is Friday, October 18th of 2024. There is a program fee. In the past, it was a $500 program fee. We've adjusted it to a pay what you can model to ensure accessibility with a recommended financial investment of either $300, $400, or $500. And so there's also an option if your organization or company that you work with is willing to pay that financial investment, we'll also work with you there. And as far as attendance, that is always a hot topic and an area of concern for folks, especially now that it's over the course of 9 months. And so while attendance at scheduled programming activities is expected, like we know that life is going to life and things are going to come up and that there's obligations and responsibilities. And so what we were really asking folks is to communicate proactively with us if there's any type of accommodations that are needed or makeup opportunities, so we can really work with you there. Now, there are certain sessions and dates that are only offered in person and cannot be made up. For instance, the national and local retreats. So there's not always going to be an accommodation or a makeup opportunity, unfortunately. Now, what we say is if you're anticipating more than 3 conflicts on session dates, it may be worth considering applying for a different year if you already know in advance that you're going to be missing those times, because we really want to ensure that you make the most of this experience, are present, because so much of the learning doesn't just happen through the curriculum, but it happens through the connection, through the conversations, through the challenges of your peers and the other fellows. One thing that isn't necessarily outlined on here is that the weekly Thursday evening may not necessarily be a scheduled session for you particularly, because there are going to be certain sessions that are specific to the different fellow profiles. So if you say are going in as a launcher, there may be a week that is specific to organizers and inventors that you don't have to participate in. So yeah, you'll be able to get a better sense of that. But yeah, it's again, we still want you to anticipate being available on Thursday evening, September through May. What is the time commitment for the Moonshot Fellows? Again, so now these are some of the questions, specific questions that were asked in the RSVP. So again, we ask that fellows are able to commit 2 to 3 hours per week and 1 weekend day per month, as well as 2 weekend-long retreats over the course of this 31-week or 9-month program. There are going to be both synchronous and asynchronous activities and programming. So again, not everything is going to be in person, but one thing that we do not do is do hybrid sessions. We've just over time, through our experience as well as feedback from fellows, come to realize that hybrid sessions take away from everyone's learning. And so, yeah, if there's a session that is synchronous, it's going to be everyone either in person or everyone remote. And then again, there's going to be lots of different asynchronous activities. One big learning that we had, and I believe it was Amanda made mention of this earlier, around the timing and the intensity and the pacing of this fellowship, a lot of folks continuously talked about the amount of pre-work or the amount of post-work that was required. And so we've been very intentional about narrowing that down. And so the Moonshot Innovation Space expectations outside of workshops, again, I talked about that pre and post work. It could be between 2 and 3 hours in the past. It's going to be around 30 minutes per session now. So we really want to ensure that, again, you get the necessary work done, but that you can take care of all of your other life responsibilities outside of the fellowship throughout the week. Each fellow is expected to engage in executive coaching. And so that's 6 hours in total throughout the fellowship. There's weekly office hours available to come in and connect and to really build on your learning, to ask questions, to really deep dive on your solution. Those are optional office hours, but they are encouraged. And then there's a mid-fellowship and an end-of-fellowship check-in with our team. So what makes this model different from previous cohort models? We've kind of talked about it at different points. But again, we expanded our fellow profile and prioritized cross-sector partnerships. So again, in the past, we really focused on folks coming in and building and launching a school or a program, nonprofit. And it was specifically focused on education. And now we're looking at just across sectors, working with folks in both new and existing environments that want to positively impact youth and youth outcomes. And so, yeah, we've really evolved our programming to more formally and comprehensively support these pathways. And again, it can look like education, it could be healthcare, it could be environmental sustainability, housing. Again, anything that is impacting youth, like we really recognize the interconnectedness of all of these systems and how they impact youth, how they impact youth's ability to have a life where they can thrive, where they can choose their direction. And then again, it's all tied to education. Like in order for youth to be able to access and be successful in their education, right? All of these other environments, all of these other systems have to be aligned and working in their favor for them to be able to show up as their full selves. We have a redesigned curriculum that's steeped in culturally responsive research. And so Darnie earlier, while talking about our leadership competency framework, talked about some of those changes, but it's also informed by 6 years of very rich qualitative and quantitative data that we have from all of our different fellowship cohorts. And then finally, new solution pathways. We are no longer focused solely on, again, incubating new learning environments. And so we're really excited for this idea of solution, right? And the co-creation of solution. Folks are going to be coming in with ideas, but we really want to make sure that you're working in collaboration with community to focus on what is the solution that is going to best fit this community's needs and what is their input and co-work to design that. Another question was, what specifically are you looking for in the applicants that are applying for this opportunity? So there's the basics. So applicants who live and work in Colorado and the Denver metro area specifically, because our fellowship is in Denver. Now, you don't have to necessarily reside in the Denver metro area, but again, our weekly programming does take place in Denver. And folks that are eager to make an active difference in their community through new or existing solutions, self-identify as being a part of a historically marginalized group, are over 18 years old. There's no longer the requirement or the need to be an educator, again, because we've really expanded beyond that. And then we're looking for folks that can commit 2 to 3 hours per week throughout the 9-month fellowship. We want folks that are going to bring new ideas and unique ways to improve the overall life outcomes of youth, as well as their larger community, right? Their caregivers and families, their community that they're a part of. We recognize that so often we solely focus on youth when we're coming up with new ideas, and youth don't, exist in a vacuum. They exist within a larger context of community and culture. We're looking for folks with personal humility and a deep, authentic respect that honors this perspective of youth, caregivers, families, and communities, as well as a respect for cultural understanding. And so we talk about that a little bit further. Deeply believes in the power of community, caregiver and family and youth input to co-create solutions to address the root causes of community identified problems. Again, we're not here to save communities. We're not here thinking that we have the best ideas. We want to work within our communities to co-create. Again, that piece I started to touch on cultural competency, including a sense of commitment to unpacking bias, developing a vision of integrity, and creating systems that improve outcomes for marginalized peoples. A commitment to practicing self-awareness and introspection, and then a willingness to support others. This is, again, I think all of the fellows really talked about it. This is a family, this is a community, this is a group of people that you are going to work intimately with and that are going to support you, are going to challenge you to be your best self and vice versa. And so really thinking about engaging with a mindset of reciprocity. What should I focus on to set me apart from other great applicants who are applying? So the one thing that I really want to make clear is we're not looking for people to compete, right? We're not looking for people to try to beat out other applicants, to try to have the best solution, right? We want to work collectively. We want to work together and in partnership, whether that's with the communities that we're working with, whether that's with our peers, whether that's with the Moonshot team, the different contractors and facilitators that come through, the coaches that you're going to work with, right? You are a part of a larger community that is set to be impactful and create impactful solutions. And so we're looking for folks that can be present and are committed to not only their own learning, but are also invested in the growth and development of their peers and being a part of, again, a cohort collective. Folks who are going to be responsive to feedback. There's going to be constant cycles of feedback. And so you have to show an openness and willingness to new ideas and navigating ambiguity. And then finally, we were looking for folks that are going to be proactive and responsive in their communication. Again, life is going to happen. So there's going to be times that we're going to react and have to maneuver and be willing to pivot. But right, to the best of our abilities, finding ways to be proactive and responsive in communication. Sometimes these slides just don't want to move. There we go. Can the project be something that is very much in its infancy, or does there need to be a certain level of foundation that already exists to apply? So we're open to any and all stages of maturity of the idea, of the project, of the solution. So you don't have to have something that's well developed. You can be, again, like a basic idea that you know as being a part of a community, and then we can build from there. So again, it can be something that you've been implementing for years, or you're just starting to brainstorm. Again, we want you to be open and willing to learn new ideas, as well as refine your existing knowledge and skills. And we want you to be able to develop a deep understanding of not just your idea, but again, what are the problems that the specific communities we're working with have identified, and how can we co-create, how can we continue to refine ideas together with that community? What does coaching look like and consist of? So we use coaching as a way to receive guidance, support, and resources to further your influence and impact, both on your leadership development and in your development of a community solution. And so again, you're going to get regular executive coaching, and there is 6 hours a year that is going to be dedicated to coaching throughout the 9-month fellowship, as well as opportunities to work with the Moonshot team, with our alumni, as well as your peers, to really get intentional feedback, and to be able to partner together on program deliverables. What does the year-long Moonshot Fellow engagement and participation look like? So there's workshops. You'll be participating in community meetings and events. Again, Darren talked about piloting. We talked about the coaching. You'll be assembling a community design team. There'll be community site visits, both locally and nationally, as well as our retreat, the 2 retreats we discussed. And you'll be introduced to a very extensive local network. And so some of the ways that we provide access to resources and opportunities are through the development of squads. We have basically an opportunity to build a squad of values-aligned leaders that are going to focus on your community design, alongside access to mentors and coaches dedicated to fostering a sense of belonging, bridging community connections, and providing personalized guidance and support. The development of skills. We really work intentionally with liberatory design. And so you'll be focused on your liberatory leadership knowledge, skills, and mindset essentials for leadership and learning and continuous improvement, strategic and operational excellence, and for some folks, effective people leadership. Really wanting to equip folks with to be able to lead through transformational change with confidence and agility. And then finally, spaces. And so you're going to have access to very specially curated design spaces. And so we want you to be able to build trust, deepen your political analysis, be able to ideate and take risks. These are going to be supported by strategic partnerships, and really allow for you to exercise creativity, engage your passion, and ensure both your success as a leader, as well as the impact that of the solution that you're designing and co-creating with community. So again, I know there were a few questions that were sent in via the RSVP form in the past, like 18-ish hours that we weren't able to address. So if those questions are still present, we have a little bit of time to be able to address those. There's also going to be the opportunity, if you have specific questions and want to connect with someone on our team, me specifically, one-on-one, there'll be opportunities for you to reach out and set up a time, a 15 to 30-minute meeting for us to connect. So wondering, what questions do y'all have? And it can be for us as a program team, it can be for one of the alums specifically, but what questions do y'all have? Well, Lauren, go ahead.
Hey, I'm wondering, I have a couple logistic questions and then one sort of more general. are the travel costs for the retreats included in the program fee, or are those additional?
So they're not necessarily covered in the program fee, but they are fully covered.
Okay, got it. And then my other question is, can you say a little bit more about the community site visits? Just what those are and what just any additional info about those?
Yeah, absolutely. Darren, you want to take this one?
Sure, I can chime in. So what they've historically looked like is we've looked at different models of schools, different models of nonprofit programs. And we're also adding in, depending on what each fellow's like profile is, differentiating now. And so like, because we have an organizing profile now it's like connecting with other community organizing groups and community organizers. So it's really learning from the community, learning best practices, learning like what are challenges that I need to look out for, or like potential pitfalls, or like who are the influencers in this space that I really need to be aware of. And so it's really learning, knowing that the more expansive our networks are, the more that we can learn. And so we've really worked to differentiate what those visits look like depending on what your profile is. So if you are planning to launch a school, it would be visiting different models of schools to understand like what everything from, so for example, a school that we visited with our cohorts before, we flew to New Mexico and visited the Native American Community Academy to understand like what does a school look like that's designed and led by an Indigenous community for an Indigenous community look like. And then we also have a model design rubric where you're really like looking at like, all right, what are the things that I need to be looking for, in the development of my own school. So that's just an example for schools. And then we have something that's catered to each profile. But great question.
Got it. Thank you.
Lauren, I think you had a couple others.
No, those were my only two.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I have a quick question for Donna, Jess, and Amanda. I'm so sorry if I missed it, but what did you guys go on to do after, like with the program? Like what was your baby, if you want to sort of speak to that?
Before they chime in, I do want to say the Moonshot Fellowship previously had the expectation that 10% of folks would actually launch and sustain their venture. And we realized that it was between 45 and 50%. So we, dramatically exceeded that goal as far as folks that went on to launch. But we recognized early on that not everybody was going to ultimately launch something.
I'll jump in real quick. Good question, Devon. That's so ultimately in cohort 2, we were focused on still launching of new schools, innovative schools that do things differently. And so myself and my co-founder, Amanda Marquez, who was also, we met in the fellowship, we launched Be the Change Community School. It's a high school that has been authorized to open in Commerce City this coming fall. So it's been a huge journey, long journey. And at some point we can even chat some more if you could figure out, like, if you want to hear the whole pathway to how I ended up at Moonshot. But even through that journey, I stayed working within education. I also was a part of the Moonshot School Launcher residency. So a whole lot has happened since 2018.
Cool. And sorry, just to jump in really quick, I know I've seen a lot of other fellowships that sort of have that requirement of at the end, like, you have to have something to show for it. So I think that really speaks to, Moonshot and, even having the expectation of like, we're trying to help you grow as an individual. And, if something is created is a byproduct of that, then that's great. So yeah, no, thanks for, kind of pointing that out. That's really cool.
I can share next. I started Moonshot thinking I wanted to do an all-girls elementary school, and feedback from the girls that I did empathy interviews with was they didn't really want to go to an all-girls school, but they were happy to do an all-girls like program or space. So I pivoted and I ran my first like pilot cohort through the fellowship. I started when they were in 4th and 5th grade. And I have continued with them since then every year. Now they are in 8th, 9th, and 10th grade, which is really cool and exciting. And it's typically the same like 8 to 9, and then we kind of add or like have new girls join. And we're about to do like a redesign, which I'm really excited about because I feel like we kind of have outgrown what we were 5 years ago when they were in elementary school. But I'm still going with the group and the program and excited to see where it goes next.
Thank you for the question. I guess we probably should have shared what our venture was in the beginning, but I had already had my venture had launched previously. So coming in, I'm on year 5 now. My venture is called Indigenous Voices. So it's an immersive program for teachers to help them implement Indigenous curriculum in the classroom. So yeah, I just had my 5-year anniversary this semester. But what this did for me also was it created a network for me and the capability of also working on legislation. I wanted to do it this session, but I just didn't get it done. So hopefully next session, which will help support Indigenous curriculum in the classroom.
Great question. What else? Any other questions that folks would like to bring up or address? One of those people that can sit in silence for a little bit and make sure. All right. Well, again, there'll be plenty of time before this application is due for any lingering questions that you didn't either want to ask in the full group setting or that come about. So you can feel free to reach us at recruitment@moonshotadventures.org. And we will make sure that your question gets addressed or that we can get you a meeting set up to connect one-on-one.
And I forgot
So
to
go ahead.
one of the point people for recruitment as well. So I will be sending out all the communications and everything.
Thank you. So if we could, you don't have to do this right this moment, but either take the URL or snap a little picture of the QR code. Just want a little pulse check. Where we would love to know where you're currently at as far as your interest in applying to the Moonshot Innovation Space. So go ahead and get that information down so you can fill out that very, very brief survey. Very brief. Thank you, Darren, for putting it in the chat. Oh, we got a question. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, thank you. I wanted to check in, maybe we already discussed this, but I might have missed it. If we are unsure about, like I know earlier in the presentation when y'all were going over the innovator, the catalyzer, all of those different categories, is that something that we learn along the way, or is that something that we need to kind of be able to categorize ourselves in like early on?
Yeah, great question. Oh, Darren, you want to go ahead?
I was just going to say it's fluid. Yeah. And you can transition and change in between. And in the way that the program is set up, there are like the different sessions are open to everyone. So even if you're just curious, even though this is like, oh, even though the session is geared towards launchers, it's still open to the entire cohort to be able to attend. And so it is fluid because we also know, similar to what some of our alum on the call have shared, is that you come in with one idea and then it evolves. And so like we want to create that space for that. And so yeah, so like it's really just to give a sense of like the different opportunities there are for different types of solutions. And you may come in with one idea and then be like, oh, like I want to do this one thing that puts me, in the under like the inventor label, but then that idea evolves. And so like we want it to be able to be fluid as well.
Thank you, Journey.
Great question. Thank you. All right, y'all. Again, if there's any other question, we still have 12 minutes. So if another question pops into your head, feel free to raise your hand or just come on off mute. But we end our sessions, our workshop sessions, and really any type of just connection. Even when we did our fellowship redesign squad meetings, we always ended with our 4As. And so, yeah, an opportunity if any of y'all want to hop off. The 4As are, was there an aha moment, an appreciation, an apology, or an ask that you have? Oh, Yvette, go ahead.
I was just wondering, say if you're one of the applicants that are selected, and since you're letting us know by the 24th of June, and the payment of the 5 for $300 is due by August, can you split your payments up, like make a payment in July and then another payment in August, or is everything due lump sum?
Yeah, it's flexible. So you can definitely break it up and pay it kind of as you go. And we also, again, like part of the pay what you can model is for accessibility. So we also realize if $300, $400, $500 is going to be an issue, please be in contact with us so we can work with you, because we don't want costs to keep somebody out of the fellowship. Great question. Cool. So again, if there's another question, oop, there we go. I love it. Go ahead, Lauren.
Sorry, this isn't really a question, but it's more of just an appreciation for this presentation. It's been so helpful. But also the 4As, I saw you all do this at the charter school boot camp a few years ago, and I use this 4As as a checkout for so many of my meetings, and people love it and I love it. So I'm like happy to see this, and yeah, so appreciation for sharing that with me long ago.
Oh, love it. Love it. Yeah, no, definitely something that I didn't do prior to coming to Moonshot, and definitely a way to come together and yeah, exit in a way that, I don't know, just feels communal. Yeah, I'm gonna also give an appreciation just for everyone showing up, being both invested in, right, your learning and development and growth, but also, right, like your dedication to community, because, right, that's what all of this is about, is creating community solutions. And so, yeah, just really appreciative of the time that y'all are taking, the intentionality that y'all are having in engaging through this process.
Yvette, I saw you had your hand up. Did you have another question?
No, I'm sorry, Darren. What I did was like clicked it again, trying to take the lower hand signal off. My bad. Thanks, though.
Hello, everyone. I do have a question. I just needed to marinate on it a little bit. My question was, do you all, I mean, I heard the coaching during the programming, but let's say you do launch a project or you were working on this project. What does support look like after? And I'm specifically interested also in like what criticism, critique is offered up, because I'm just really thinking around, sometimes we might have the best intentions when we're doing work, and once we start doing the work, some of it might not be great, or it might have negative impacts or things you didn't see ahead of time. Is there an opportunity to get that feedback and critique after a project has started from your cohort or from the program to ensure that there's like fidelity to the help that you're trying to bring to a community?
Yeah, and I don't know if there's any alum that want to speak.
Yeah,
So I know, Jess, you kind of did, but Amanda.
Yeah, I'll jump in on this. That's a fantastic question. And I'll tell you, like, just having worked in the education system, I think like I started to develop this like I hated the word feedback, right? Because it was never really like important feedback with the intention of helping me grow. It was more, just kind of like, I don't know, it was not a good critique. But within the fellowship, and I would say within even like just the way in which Moonshot works, the feedback, the critique, the pushes are always with the best interest of you and of the of your venture, of your future employees, of the students you serve. All of that is really richly tied in together. And I love the fact that we actually operate in a like a culture of feedback, not in like the cringe feedback way, right? But like feedback of like, hey, this is how this is going to impact, or have you thought about this? Magnolia, take whatever feedback that you might have experienced out and about, especially within like, some of these larger school systems, and just put that on the shelf. Because I'm telling you, it's like the best feedback out of love.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing that. And actually, I haven't had really bad experiences, feedback, and criticism. Like, I just feel like I need more. I want people to push. And that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you were able to, or if you were here when we went over our alumni services, but we do have what's called our Moonshot Calibration Council. And so this is a group of contractors in all sorts of different fields, including executive coaches. We have legal counsel that folks can just get some time to spend with, HR professionals, but right, depending on exactly what it is that you're trying to do in either the continued development of your solution or in your own personal and professional development, right, there are people on this council that you get 7 paid hours a year as an alumni to engage with. There's also our Direct to Fellows Learning Fund, which is a micro grant program that we have. And so if there's additional professional development, learning opportunities to engage your solution and grow it and whatnot, that is an opportunity for you to be able to request funding for that growth and development.
One more quick question, Justin. I was just wondering, are the coaches going to be coaches within the organization, or will they be coaches from within the community that will be stepping in to help us?
That's a great
If
question.
we were to be selected.
Yeah, so you have the ability to work one-on-one with our team, our program team. So you'll get that kind of like support and collective mentorship again, and it goes both ways. But as far as the actual coaching, we work with professional executive coaches, BIPOC executive coaches that are going to support you in your professional development and pushing your ideas. Yeah, Bree, I see your hand.
Sorry for running way behind, but I am gonna look over this webinar when you guys send it out. So thank you for hosting this evening. And I just have it's kind of a random question. I know how Moonshot was previously, like I know some of the alum, but I'm really kind of trying to discern if I should apply like as myself or a joint venture, because my mother started an organization, well, a business, an LLC, like right around COVID. She's a retired teacher. She's in her 70s. And we were able to launch the business, and it's for students. And it's really been great. But trying to see how to switch it over to a nonprofit, because she's not doing it for profit purposes. And it's just been such a joy just being able to like get some grants through the Dimmer Foundation and things of that nature. So I don't know if I should apply with her to try to kind of help that organization continue to thrive, or if I should go in as myself. I know that's probably really personal, but don't know if you guys have any suggestions or if it even makes sense in how the new fellowship is structured.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And Darren, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is like, if you're planning, like, do you already work within this organization, or are you planning on joining it?
Oh, with my mom's business, I just do volunteer. Like it's literally just her, and so she has an LLC, and then everything else we've been trying to get grants to donate
Yeah,
the product she created. Yeah.
So that would be it for at least for me, is like, is this something that you want to take on? And has there been, right, insight that y'all have gleaned from the community that says this is the direction that we want to go? This is why we're looking to transition to a nonprofit. And this is, right, like the type of impact that we're hoping to have based off of like the insights that we have. And this is, right, like, and be able to start to think about how you want to partner with community. Now, if that's not necessarily what you're looking to do, right? That's like a Bree answer. It's like, are you doing this for your mom and to support the work that she's doing? Or again, is there something that is based on your experience and your passions, that you're really looking to work with community to create solutions for? So that would be at least how I would kind of frame it as you're making that decision. Darren, do you have anything, or anyone else?
Thank you.
Yeah, I would, I agree with all of that. And I would encourage you to apply as yourself, because you can apply as yourself and then still work on, like designing something that supports like what your mom is doing. And so either way, I think it makes sense to like apply as yourself, because one of the things that we had briefly discussed earlier was like, it doesn't matter what stage of maturity your idea is in. It could be something that's already been up and running for a while, or it could be something where you're just like, I have a seed of an idea that I want to explore further. So it's flexible in that way. And part of the fellowship is like understanding what are the pros and cons of different types of governance structures if you do want to launch an organization. Because we might have community organizers who are coming in. That's actually a new profile we're expanding to, who are like, I don't want to launch a 501c3. I don't want to launch a 501c4, but I still need to figure out how to like fund the different things that I'm doing. And so those are some of the things that we support the navigation of in the program. Or if you are trying to figure out like, do I want to become an LLC or a nonprofit, or understand like what a hybrid model looks like? That's where those are some of the things that we explore in the program. And then also some of the support that our Community Collaboration Council, where we have folks who are attorneys and tax professionals who specialize in nonprofits and socially responsible work as well. So it's the fellowship and beyond really is designed to support some of that exploration.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you, Bree. Well, thank you all for joining, for your questions. Really hoping that you all are going to apply. Looking forward to seeing your applications. If there's any questions that y'all have, please reach out. Recruitment at Moonshot Adventures. We'll get it to the correct person. Again, if you also want to connect one-on-one to talk more specifically about your situation, we're here for that, and we can set up an appointment. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Have a great night. Stay warm, stay safe. Love, peace, and chicken grease.